Christmas Yule blog is a pretty good Christmas film, and on the one hand, a pretty standard Lifetime film, but at the same time, it's a little different to most Christmas films because this is set in Carta de Amor in New Mexico. Most Lifetime Christmas films, Hallmark Christmas films, Ninth House ones, basically any classic rom-com, they're usually set in a big city. This one being set in Carta de Amor, where I knew nothing about this place or their Christmas traditions. Straight away, I knew I would learn something from this and I'd find it quite refreshing, and that is absolutely the case. Aside from one decision that the protagonist makes that really bothered me, and it's a bit of a spoiler, so I will leave that until the very end. I really enjoyed this, and I struggled to find anything specific about it that I would have liked to have seen done differently. This was released last year in 2020, directed by Heather Hawthorn Doyle, written by Bob Sáenz, and stars Sara Canning as our protagonist, Carolyn. And Carolyn is a travel writer. Every Christmas she goes to a new location. This year she has been sent to Carta de Amor in New Mexico. And like myself, she doesn't know anything about the traditions. So as she learns about the different Christmas traditions and festive events that they have every year, so do we as the viewer. And that's something that I find really interesting, because even if the narrative itself were boring or the protagonist was annoying, neither of which is the case, it does mean that there's still going to be an element that's quite new and refreshing and exciting. And I don't know how many of these traditions are correct. I take it all with a pinch of salt whenever I see something in a fictitious narrative. But generally speaking, I should also point out, by the way, that this is not a real place. But I believe that they are heavily based on real traditions of certain cultures. So that's why I say I don't really know how much of them are true or realistic to certain parts of New Mexico. But I am generally going to assume that there must be some truth in there. If not, they're very well developed and explained. And certainly there are some really beautiful traditions in this that made it a really interesting narrative. It wouldn't be a Lifetime Christmas film without a romantic interest, and that comes in the form of Zak Santiago, who plays Oscar Ortiz, and I really loved watching his on-screen relationship develop with Carolyn. I think we had a really great chemistry. The development of their relationship wasn't 100% predictable, so there were times where I wasn't sure what direction it was going in, keeping the flavour a little bit more interesting and kind of keeping my curiosity going. I have to say the character of Sean is adorable. He's so sweet. He's played by Dominic Mariche. I may have mispronounced that, and I apologise if I do. I really liked it, and I thought that Caroline was particularly interesting as a protagonist. She wasn't too annoying. Sometimes I felt like her attitude was a little bit too relaxed and laid back and not that interested in what she was doing. This is primarily because she didn't actually want to go to New Mexico for Christmas. She was hoping her assignment would be somewhere hot and exotic and, well, the hot bit, but, somewhere a bit more of a traditional Christmas holiday destination. But she does go through some interesting character development. I cannot fault that at all. So, the one spoilery aspect, and it's not really a spoiler, but just if you don't want to know anything about it, avoid listening. The entire narrative is basically building up to this parade. This festive parade happens every year, and something happens to Caroline that means that she might have to leave early. But she just kind of abandons the assignment, or in theory, she's about to abandon the assignment right before the parade. That you can't just give up on a task you've been given, a job that you've been assigned to do. Covering the parade is obviously one of the biggest articles that she would write out of this, because it's the key event of the season for this Carta de Amor. But she decides that she's going to leave early and miss it, and whether or not that happens I'm not going to say, but I just thought that was a really unprofessional thing for her to do. Been annoyed by that. I'm speaking as a writer, that just would never happen. But apart from that, the Christmas Yule blog, despite the cheesy title, is actually really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're looking for a new Christmas film, I'd say Christmas Yule blog is a really good one to go with.